Converting measurements. So in 1983, a Boeing 767 ran out of fuel on a flight from Montreal to Edmonton. The aircraft was able to glide to a safe landing in Gimli, Manitoba, but no one was hurt. An investigation revealed that the aircraft ran out of fuel because the ground crew used the wrong conversion factor to convert gallons to liters. Because of this error, the pilot took off from Montreal with 12,598 liters of fuel instead of the 27,770 liters of fuel it needed to reach Edmonton. So not all conversion errors have such potential serious consequences, but in many jobs we need to know how to convert from SI, which is metric system, Standard International, so SI system, which is the metric system, to imperial units. For example, the United States, which is Canada's largest trading partner, uses imperial units. So if you're doing business with a US company, you will need to know the imperial to SI or metric standard conversions. All right. We're going to use proportional reasoning and our conversion factors for this. So if you look at your pink chart, right, it will be, if you're looking at just going from metric to metric, this is your top one. If you're looking for imperial to imperial, then it's the second section. But now we're going to be looking at the third and the fourth section. This one is to go from imperial, so an inch to a centimeter, or you can go from a centimeter to an inch depending on which direction you need to go to. All right, so this one is imperial to metric, and this one is metric to imperial. All right, so we'll be bouncing back and forth between these ones right here. And we're going to look at just length today, and or maybe we'll be looking at more, I can't remember. But again, you want to choose the one that is in the same direction as your question. Because I have inch to centimeter, if I'm going from inches to centimeters, I'm going to use that one, right? Because then I can multiply by 2.54, right? If you go the other direction, inch to centimeter, then you would have to divide by 0.3937, all right? So they will get you the same answer. It just depends which conversion factor you use and whether you have to multiply if you're going in one direction or divide if you're going in the other direction. All right? So for example, let's go to this page right here. Okay, just put a star next to it.
Okay, well, area is just one side times the other side, right?
Yeah, 2 dimensions. All right, so let's go to this one. This is imperial to metric conversion. So get your sheet out. We're going to do yards to meters. So some of the conversion factors are there. Sometimes you have to do a couple steps to get them to there. So if we're going yards to meters, we can easily see that there is a conversion factor of 1 yard is 0.9144 meters. Since it's yards to meters, this is in the same direction as what's on the sheet. Then all I have to do is take 6 and multiply it by 0.144. And that will get me my meters. All right, 6 times 0.9144. And generally, I'm going to go to 2 decimal places. I think that's mostly what I did here. Let me just check. Did I go to 2 decimal places? Yes. So I do end up with a bunch of decimal places, round to 2 decimal places. So 5.49. 5.49 meters would be 6 yards. So remember, a meter stick is slightly larger than a yardstick, which makes sense that if I have 6 yardsticks, I'm going to have almost 5.5 meters. Yeah.
How many decimal places can be off sometimes in a question like this? I just round straight to 50.
Yeah, well, proper rounding would mean if you're doing 2 decimal places, it would be 49. I'm not going to be too picky about it, but make sure you're using proper rounding techniques. 50 would be too much, right? That's rounding to the nearest tenth, and I want it to the nearest 100. Okay? 3 miles to kilometers. So miles MI to kilometers, again, is a straight. You can see that a mile is 1.6 kilometers. 3 times, and generally we just go with 1.6, but I went to a few more decimal places just because it's a bit more accurate. 3 times 1.6093, and I get 4.83 kilometers, again rounded properly. All right, we've got 80 inches to meters. Now, if I look at this, the only conversion factor that I have is 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. There is no inch to meters on my thing. So this is one of those ones where you have to do 2 steps. So I'm going to take my 80 inches, it's going to go to centimeters, and then I'm going to have to go to centimeters to meters. All right, so I'm going to take my 80 inches, I'm going to times it by 2.54, all right, 80 times 2.54, that's going to get me 203.2, but I'm in centimeters. Make sure you put your units on. Keep a running total. I never write an answer that doesn't have a unit. Okay? You will never see me write 203.2 and not put a unit on it, because that tells me where I am. Well, now I need to go to meters, centimeters to meters. I divide by 100, right? So I'm going to move it over to, I get 2.032, which gives me, if I want to go to 2 decimal places, and that will be my answer there. Okay? Because these questions can have 2 or 3 conversions in them, you want to make sure you put a unit on everything you do, especially when you're moving things. What do we got? Feet to meters. Feet to meters. So again, I'm in the same direction. So I'm going to take 3.8 times it by 0.3048. 3.8 times by 0.3048, giving me 1.16 meters. Right? Oh, look at the next one. I have 5 feet 3 inches and I need to put it in meters. So what do you think we have to do first to that 5 feet 3 inches? Make it all inches. So 5 times 12 will give me 60, plus the 3 will give me 63 what? Inches. I'm going to use a little double tick again. Make sure you put some units on it. Now I need to go inches to meters. Can I go inches to meters? Yes. Nope. Inches to centimeters. This is the closest I can get. So I'm going to times by 2.54 centimeters. 63 times 2.54 will give me 160.2, and I'm in centimeters. And that gives me 1.60, rounded properly to 2 decimal places, meter. Divide by 100. Am I going too fast? Or are we okay? We're okay? Mara?
Wait, I have a question though.
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference though between D and E?
D and E?
Well, because it's 3.8 feet and this is 5.3 feet.
No, it's 5 feet 3 inches. So it's, yeah, it's not 5 decimal 3, it's 5 feet 3 inches. Yeah.
Sorry, I was very confused.
Okay, yeah, this is a decimal form and this is not decimal form. You could put the 3 inches in a decimal. Like you could have done this as a different thing. You could have also gone 5 point. Now 3 inches is how much of a foot? 1/4, right?
Yes.
So I could have gone 5.25 feet and then went to meters. Can I go directly from feet to meters? Yes, I can. By timesing by 0.3048. Okay, so I could have gone 5.25 times decimal 3048, and I would have ended up with the decimal 160 meters. See how there's a couple different ways you could have done it. It's your choice. Every question may have, there's definitely one way of doing it, but there may be more than one way. And that's the reason why we go to so many decimal places on each of these, is because if we don't, if you use a different conversion factor and somebody else uses a different conversion factor and you only do one decimal place on your conversion factor, then you can have a big difference. There's a question in the assignment where this truck goes under a bridge, and if you don't put all the decimal places on the conversion factor, it looks like he can go through when he actually can't. So you don't want to have that case, right? Where your vehicle, where your big truck, according to the conversion factors, fits, but it doesn't actually fit, right? We got 0.4 of a mile to meters. Can we go miles to meters? Yes. Oh, no, I can go miles to kilometers.
Why don't they just put them all?
Because otherwise there'd be too many conversion factors, right? So we're going to go miles, 0.04 miles, MI. And I'm going to times it by 1.6093 kilometers, right? Put my units on so that I know what I'm going to. 0.4 times 1.6093. That will get me to, and don't round yet, right? I'm in kilometers. And then I need to go to meters. So kilometers and meters is 1,000, right? 3 decimal places, 643.72. So if I had dropped all those decimal places off before I got to this step, I would have been way out. And now I'm good. So don't drop your decimal, don't round anything until you get to your final step. Otherwise, you could have an issue. Okay, so that was going from imperial to metric. If you flip over the page, let's go from metric to imperial, which is then we need to move down to this one. All right, so now we're down to the 4th column on our sheet. 4th column on our sheet. Let me move it. There we go. So now I need to go meters to yards. So this one has 5 different conversions. So there might be we got a millimeter to an inch, and we have a centimeter to an inch. And we have a meter to a yard. Oh, I've got directly. 14 meters times by 1.0936 yards. 14 times 1.093 gives me 18.58 yards. Could I have used the conversion factor that was up in the top one? Yes, I could have. I could have divided by 14 and taken it and divided it by the 0.9144. See how you get, it's a little bit different. Your decimal place is out by just slightly. Oh, no, it isn't. It is out by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So always seek the one where you're going to be multiplying. Okay? Look for the one between the 2 charts that is the multiplying, because that's the one that's going to be more accurate. All right? 7 kilometers to miles. Can we go kilometers to miles? Oh, yes, we can. 7 times 0.6214 miles. 7 times 0.6214, and I end up with 4.35, and I'm in miles, MI. And again, make sure you're rounding to 2 decimal places. I'm almost done here. Meters to inches. Oh, meters. I have meters to yards, and I have meters to feet, which is the closest I can get to inches. Meters to feet. So I'm going to go 12 meters, and I'm going to times by 3.2808 feet. And that's going to get me 12 times 3.2808. And it's going to get me all this, right? And again, I do not want to round. I'm in feet at the moment. I do not want to round until I can get to inches. So how do I get from feet to inches? Divide by 12 or times by 12? Times by 12. Because there are 12 inches in every foot. Times by 12. Now I can round 472.44 inches. Right? Now I can drop those extra 2 decimal places. See how each of my things had a unit on it. Because sometimes I can write this down and then get distracted, right? And then think that's my answer. So make sure you keep a running total of that. Kilometers to yards. Can I go kilometers to yards? No, I can only go kilometers to miles. So 2 kilometers times 0.6214 miles. 2 times 0.6214 gives me this, and I'm in miles. So again, make sure you put your units on. I'm in miles to yards, so I'm going to go back up. I'm in the Imperial one. Miles and yards has what? Oh, here we are. 1,760. Am I in the same direction of units as on the sheet? Miles to yards?
Yeah.
Miles to yards. That means I can times by 1760. Right? It's the same direction, miles to yards. And I should end up with more, right? Because yards is a smaller unit size. 1.2428 times 1760 means that I have 2,187.33 yards. So most of them have 2 conversions, right? Centimeters to feet. Can I go centimeters to feet? I can go centimeters to an inch. Good enough. All right. 72 centimeters times by 0.3937 inches. 72 times 0.3937 gives me 20, and I got to keep them all, right? I'm in inches. How do I get from an inch to a foot? Times by 12 or divide by 12? Divide, right? Because I'm getting to something that's a larger unit size. Now I can round 2.36 feet, right? 2.36. And the last question before I let you work for a little bit. 400 meters. So I've got 2 options here for meters on my sheet, and I need to go to a mile. And of course, look at that. I can go to yards and I can go to feet. You want to go to yards? All right. So 400 meters. Stop. Times by 1.0936 yards. 400 times 1.0936 gives me 437.44 yards. And I go back up to my sheet up here, And I see where I can go from yards to miles. Again. Now, this time, is my units in the same direction?
No, so you divide.
Good. Because it says I want to go from yards to miles, but I'm at miles to yards. They're opposite. So this time I'm going to divide by the 1760. I will get decimal, and then a bunch of decimal places.
How many would you want us to put?
Just 2, decimal 25. 25 miles. So it's a quarter of a mile. 400 meters is approximately a quarter of a mile. Okay? So that's why you do the 400 meter run. It's a quarter of a mile. You ever wonder why it was a 400 meter? 400 meters is a quarter of a mile. 800 meters is a half a mile. So that's why those values were there. All right. That's part 1 of this section.